What is a cult, but doesn't feel like a cult? Honestly, cults don't feel like cults to those in them. Everything is set up to make it all feel normal. It works particularly well because cults prey upon those who are lonely and searching for a sense of belonging. Usually there's some religious aspect and some nebulous threat to fight against. It's designed to make people involved feel safe, like they're doing good, and like they'd be nothing without the cult. The cult at Jonestown, People's Temple, started as a church that was trying to help people of color in Indiana. It was primarily elderly people at the start of it all. People who were alone. People who wanted to do good. So they gave everything they had for the cause. As it grew, more varied people came into the picture. But it started as a church trying to help people with a predatory leader. The cult at Jonestown, People's Temple, started as a church that was trying to help people of color in Indiana. It was primarily elderly people at the start of it all. People who were alone. People who wanted to do good. So they gave everything they had for the cause. As it grew, more varied people came into the picture. But it started as a church trying to help people with a predatory leader. I read the book The Road to Jonestown, and I very specifically remember thinking that I would have been entirely on board with joining the original church. It was completely up my alley. It was focused on actually going into the community and doing good works, like feeding the poor, etc., rather than focusing on sit-down services. I do a lot of volunteer work in general, and would absolutely be the type of person who would get wrapped up in this at that stage. Cults are like abusive relationships. If someone punched you in the face on the first date, you'd never see them again. If you showed up at a meeting and it was obviously a cult, you'd never go back. It's slow indoctrination from a reasonable starting point. Cults are like abusive relationships. If someone punched you in the face on the first date, you'd never see them again. If you showed up at a meeting and it was obviously a cult, you'd never go back. It's slow indoctrination from a reasonable starting point. Really well said. If cults felt like cults, they wouldn't be cults. The best con men are hard to catch because the victims don't feel like victims. You hear it about con men all the time. They are the best people you will ever know until it is too late and they don't need anything from you anymore. Multi-level marketing or pyramid schemes. Watching the Amazon series on LuLaRoe made me realize humans just really like being a part of a tribe, don't we? It's ingrained into our animal brains still. Herd animals through and through. Every convention looked just like a church, a comic-con, a concert, etc. We want to look up to someone and be someone to look up to. It's always good to be a part of something and a community. It makes us feel safe. But I guess the line is drawn when you start surrounding yourself with just that one tribe. I was in a single moms group for a few weeks until I realized it was just a man-hating club. Those women were moms and only moms, which can be depressing. There's more to life than raising kids. That's how you get midlife crisis and divorces, because when the kids leave, now what? Remember, you gotta put the oxygen mask on yourself before anyone else. CrossFit. CrossFit is so dumb. I made the mistake of training it for a period of time and man, the energy is so weird. People bragging about their injuries, the toxic positivism, that obsession with the number of reps instead of the quality and the form of the movement, and the effing peer pressure. Some fella hurt his lower back because apparently the weight he was using for his deadlifts wasn't enough and he was pressured into loading more his barbell. Besides that, his form was horrible. He lifted with his back rounded, but hey, he could lift 300 pounds, so he was badass. Definitely this new anti-vax movement. It's effing scary to watch people go down that rabbit hole. My sister is a new mom and it's all I can do to pull her away from those Facebook posts about what might harm her child. My parents bought into that in these past couple years. Fortunately for us kids, we're all grown, and most of us have moved out. For my dad, it started with conservative TV making him scared of the COVID vaccine, which then developed into a fear of vaccines in general. I've kind of given up on him though. He's really stubborn, so we don't have much hope of changing his mind. And he's always been an A, so it's hard to have the motivation I maybe ought to. For my mom, it was religious bloggers who turned anti-vax around that same time. She's just really gullible. She'll believe anything if you tell her a religious figure said it. And apparently someone had a vision in which Jesus said he hates vaccines. We don't have a lot of hope that we can help her be less dumb. So it's just damage control. My brother has a 1-year-old, first kid. His wife are kind of off kilter with this. We weren't allowed to meet the baby until like a month after he was born BC of COVID. They never came over BC of COVID. I mean they literally never left the house unless absolutely necessary for months. Even as recently as June. We had to wear a mask if we wanted to hold him outside. Even with being vaccinated, they would completely barrage people for not taking COVID seriously enough by their standards. But, while the entire rest of my immediate family, parents, 2 brothers GF, and my grandma who denies she had a stroke despite very much having one, got vaccinated for COVID, they won't. They don't believe the science. My brother doesn't have beyond a HS education, and my sis went to culinary school after HS. They also don't trust the news, so they don't watch it, and I've really never understood how they formulate their opinions on such things. Anytime I've tried to share evidence supporting the vaccine, I'm not expecting their right to have an opinion. I have a friend with a PhD in BO, and wanted to show them her thoughts on it, automatically suspicious of her intentions. Effing weirdish. The worst part of their overzealous, but missing the mark covered approach. My dad has stage 4 colon cancer. He was diagnosed in February. They don't come around much BC of COVID. We've only seen the baby a handful of times. His chemo doctor told him to get the vaccine, still nothing from them. I'll be that guy now. Trump supporters. We still have them standing on street corners with Trump 2020 banners and Trump 2024 flags. I have nothing against Republicans. This is just a whole different group. They buy MAGA hats, Trump's books, and idolize him like a deity. Let's look at characteristics of a cult and compare it to Trump supporters. The group displays an excessively zealous and unquestioning commitment to its leader. And, whether he is alive or dead, regards his belief system, ideology, and practices as the truth, as law. Well, we can check that one off. Anything he said was taken as gospel. There were literally flags with Trump Rambo on them. Seems pretty zealous to me. Questioning, doubt, and dissent are discouraged, or even punished. Check that one off too. No criticizing of Trump as a person or political figure allowed. Mind-altering practices, such as meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, denunciation sessions, or debilitating work routines, are used in excess and serve to suppress doubts about the group and its leader or leaders. Can we include slogans such as "Make America Great Again" in this? If not, then I guess we can't really check this one off. The leadership dictates, sometimes in great detail, how members should think, act, and feel. For instance, members must get permission to date, change jobs, or marry. All leaders prescribe what to wear, where to live, whether to have children, how to discipline children, and so forth. Seeing as Trump supporters also overwhelmingly overlap with conservative/evangelical Christians, the structure was definitely already there. The group is elitist, claiming a special, exalted status for itself, its leader or leaders, and its members. For instance, the leader is considered the Messiah, a special being, an avatar, or the group and/or the leader is on a special mission to save humanity. Again, Trump went from being a political figure to being worshipped as a person. I will once again cite the flags, and we'll throw in the word libtard as well as snowflake, to illustrate how the supporters thought of those who disagree. And let's also not forget the racial aspects too. The group has a polarized us versus them mentality, which may cause conflict with the wider society. Goes without saying, the leader is not accountable to any authorities, unlike, for example, teachers, military commanders, or ministers, priests, monks, and rabbis of mainstream religious denominations. Despite breaking federal laws multiple times, his supporters believed it was illegal to impeach him. Despite losing the election, his supporters believed that he was entitled to the presidency anyway. The group teaches or implies that its supposedly exalted ends justify whatever means it deems necessary. This may result in members participating in behaviors or activities they would have considered reprehensible or unethical before joining the group. For instance, lying to family or friends, or collecting money for bogus charities. January 6th. Anyone. The leadership induces feelings of shame and/or guilt in order to influence and control members. Often this is done through peer pressure and subtle forms of persuasion. Subservience to the leader or group requires members to cut ties with family and friends, and radically alter the personal goals and activities they had before joining the group. I think a lot of this is done through social media. Check. The group is preoccupied with bringing in new members. Yep. The more supporters the better. The group is preoccupied with making money. This kind of goes with any political campaign. I don't think this is exclusive to Trump supporters. Members are expected to devote inordinate amounts of time to the group and group-related activities. Yep. Check. Members are encouraged or required to live and/or socialize only with other group members. Check again. Non-supporters are only tolerated if they are a subject of public derision, or if the Trump supporter is actively working to recruit them to the correct side. The most loyal members, the true believers, feel there can be no life outside the context of the group. They believe there is no other way to be and often fear reprisals to themselves or others if they leave or even consider leaving the group. If Trump loses, then America will fall and there will be nuclear war. Our children will be brainwashed by liberals. Racial minorities will overthrow whites. Gee, that's yet another big fat check mark.